I'm so sorry I'm not able to physically join you today at the Fire Forum. Unfortunately, prior commitments and being a solo vet, I just can't join you. But I'm so proud of everyone who's brought this event together. I know it's a hugely important thing for us to bring this discussion to the Kimberley about the effect of repeated burnings on our land. I have seen the evidence of my own eyes over the last 32 years, and I know it's something that we really need to moderate these practices. I really hope everything goes well today and promotes some really good, healthy discussion about what we are doing to our land and what we can change going forward.
My name is Sarah Brett and I'm a vet from the Kimberley Vet in Kununurra. I've been in the Kimberley for 30 years, I've been a vet for 34 years, and I have always been involved in treating not only domestic pets and large animals, but I've always been involved in treating wildlife and also exotic animals to a large degree as well. So treating all the species, great and small as they say, has always been a part of my veterinary world since I have graduated. When I first came to the Kimberley, there was an incredibly spectacular number and variety of wildlife, and certainly it was a pleasure to see so many creatures and the great variety, huge numbers of creatures that we saw and would treat. And we would see probably, every week I would treat 5 or 10 varying species of either birds, mammals or reptiles. Certainly over my first 10 years here, I was very aware that the diversity and the range of wildlife here that was quite spectacular. And then over the time after that, we started to notice that numbers and the variety and the diversity of wildlife was really starting to reduce. For me, it seemed to correlate somewhat with increased burning of the Kimberley, and certainly the impacts of fire, I think that now over the last 10 years, I think on our land is really particularly extreme. And what I've noticed is that in particular what we see is a lot of the cases that present to us, apart from the fact that overall there are far less species, there's some species of creatures we rarely ever see. There are much reduced numbers of all the species that are remaining here. And one of the particular things I've noticed is that they're high-end predators, so the eagles, the dingoes, some of the larger birds, that what we're seeing is that we're often presented with birds that are extremely malnourished and starving. And I really believe that to be a reflection of the fact that there is a lot less food available in the environment for our wildlife. And certainly there is a great diversity of changes that I have noticed in the creatures, and certainly I would say in the last 10 years those impacts have been becoming particularly profound, and I am incredibly nervous of what we will have of wildlife in any way, shape or form in the next 10 years if the decline in numbers and biodiversity continues at the rate that it is continuing today. Over the last 15 years or so, there has been varying groups of people that have been gathering together, people who have been long-term Kimberley residents who can really see with the evidence of their own eyes the effect that the fires and the repeated burning are having on our country. And there has been a diverse group of people that have, from their own different aspects and walks of life, that have really identified that the changes that they have seen in the land seem to strongly correlate with the impact of fire. Unfortunately, there is a sense of helplessness that goes with trying to change this when you are battling against government bodies that are actually licensed and paid to burn our land repeatedly. And there is a great sense of helplessness in lots of ways of how we can change their thinking and the very often parochial attitude that we know better than Mother Nature and allowed to do what we want at our own whim to the country. And there has been people from farmers, from wildlife officers themselves, from people involved in all walks of life, tourism, of course, those people that are out in the country, all of these different people that have been travelling the country and seeing the great impact of the repeated burning and the overburning of our country and what its end result has been. We need to come together as a community to present our knowledge and our issues to government and all the people involved in this as a whole. And it's something that we've done before. We have brought together fire forums, so we've brought information from private sources, from government sectors, from all different areas. But at this time, I feel it is absolutely absolutely time critical. And of what we've seen all over Australia, you know, these massive bushfires and the incredible time, you know, that we've spent in the last 12 months in, you know, seeing our country burn like the end of last year, I think really believe that now is the time that we have to work together to really bring that knowledge together and make some solid and actual changes to how we treat our poor country. So for me, those impacts of the fires, not only do they destroy food sources, do they destroy habitat and physically burn the animals that cannot get away from these fast-running fires. We're losing nesting sites for the birds, we're losing food. All of those things are impacting the wildlife directly. And then we have all these other impacts on the wildlife as well. The number of creatures that are killed on the roads is massive. You know, I had a heartbreaking case of a wedge-tailed eagle the other day who'd been hit by a truck. You know, it literally makes me weep. We then add to that the habitat destruction, the loss of wildlife corridors when we're now farming all this land, and also of course the intervention of the cane toad, which has had a massive impact on our reptiles as well. So there are so many different avenues we are having impact on our wildlife that if we don't change some of these soon, there won't be any left. There really won't be any left.